Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to fundamentally shift how you look at nutrition. Because, for decades, we've all been taught to look at our plates and basically just count individual nutrients. We obsess over grams of protein, carbs, fats, or milligrams of specific vitamins, tracking every little detail in apps and spreadsheets. It's kind of turned into this massive numbers game. But today, we're stepping away from that hyper-isolated view. Instead, we're diving into a concept that forces us to look at whole foods as these incredibly complex, highly interactive systems. It's a total game changer that is reshaping modern nutrition science, and it all revolves around something called the food matrix. So, right off the bat, you might be wondering, what does the food matrix actually have to do with the famous sci-fi movie? Well, absolutely nothing. While the movie was all about a fictional digital simulation, the food matrix describes something very real and tangible. Honestly, it's one of the most exciting and profound ideas to hit modern nutrition science. It basically suggests that whole foods are way, way more than just a simple sum of their individual nutrients. They're intricately designed packages that communicate with our bodies in ways we're honestly only just beginning to fully understand. To really wrap our heads around this, picture a beautiful, super precise mechanical watch that's been completely taken apart. Every single gear, every microscopic spring, screw, and jewel is carefully extracted and laid out right in front of you on a table. Absolutely nothing is missing, right? The whole shebang is still there. But here's the catch. Sitting there on the table, disconnected from its original structure and architecture, that watch doesn't keep time anymore. Whole foods work in the exact same way. Their profound health benefits don't come from a single nutrient acting all on its lonesome, but from the incredible structure, the matrix that binds them all together. Now, to understand how we got so hung up on single nutrients in the first place, we got to talk about a common scientific approach called reductionism. Reductionism is just the practice of breaking complex systems down into smaller pieces so scientists can study each variable independently. And hey, let's be fair. This approach has given us some incredible, life-saving discoveries. Because researchers isolated nutrients, we figured out that vitamin C cures scurvy and vitamin D is absolutely crucial for our bones. But the trap of reductionism in nutrition is assuming that simply understanding those individual parts automatically explains the entire, vastly complex system of the human diet. For years, we've had food labels screaming about isolated things like protein or antioxidants, and supplement companies promising perfect health in a tiny little bottle. But over time, researchers noticed something pretty surprising. People who ate diets rich in whole fruits, vegetables, legumes, and greens were seeing health benefits far greater than any single isolated nutrient could possibly explain. When studied in isolation, the math just wasn't adding up. 1 plus 1 didn't equal 2, it equaled 5. Something much bigger and way more complex was happening when people consumed foods in their whole natural form. This realization led researchers to a massive breakthrough in the late 1990s. Nutritionists, including epidemiologist David Jacobs, started throwing around this brilliant new term, food synergy. This was the groundbreaking idea that foods produce their incredible health effects specifically because their many components work together in tandem. Later on, brilliant researchers like Dr. T. Colin Campbell in his book Whole expanded on this idea. They popularized what we now call the food matrix to explain exactly why isolated nutrients totally fail to capture how food actually behaves inside the incredibly dynamic environment of the human body. And the food matrix isn't just one simple thing. It's a massive, interactive network. It includes the physical architecture of the food, the intact plant cell walls, the fiber, the water content, plus all the proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and literally thousands of phytochemicals and bioactive compounds. The interaction among all of these components is what dictates how that food is digested, absorbed, metabolized, and even how it's sensed and utilized by our gut microbes. Every single piece relies on the others. Let's bring this down to earth with a relatable, real-world example to see how this matrix works in practice. Think about a whole orange compared to a glass of orange juice. A whole orange has this intricate natural architecture. It's got intact cell walls, rich fiber, and natural water that all work tightly together to pace your digestion. It actually takes physical effort for your body to break it down. Orange juice, on the other hand, well, it might contain a lot of the same vitamin C, but the fiber has been totally stripped away, and that vital natural physical structure is completely gone. Visually and biologically, these are two totally different packages. Even though both originally come from the exact same fruit, your body experiences the intact matrix of the whole, fresh orange completely differently than it experiences the altered, processed structure of the liquid juice. The matrix actually dictates your biological response. It tells your brain when you're full. It manages exactly how much sugar enters your bloodstream at a given time, and it determines which nutrients actually make it to your cells. We see the exact same thing when we compare whole wheat berries to refined white flour. When you grind whole wheat into highly refined flour, you're aggressively stripping away the bran and the germ. You aren't just changing the nutrient profile, you're fundamentally destroying the original matrix. Because that structural integrity is gone, the starches left behind get digested incredibly quickly. That leads to a much higher and faster glycemic response, basically a rapid spike in your blood sugar that simply wouldn't happen if the matrix was still fully intact and slowing things down. Okay, one more example. And yeah, this one might hurt a little if you have a sweet tooth. Compare a beautiful fresh peach to a slice of warm peach cobbler. The fresh peach delivers its vitamins and minerals wrapped tightly within a natural matrix of water and fiber. In the cobbler, sure, the peach is technically still in there, but the matrix has been substantially altered. We've added refined flour, concentrated sugars, and fats, creating a food that's going to have a vastly different metabolic effect on your body than the original fruit. The original matrix is gone, replaced by one that our bodies process way too fast. So, if there's one massive takeaway here, it's this. Eat the peach, not just the juice. Eat the whole bean, not simply an isolated protein powder. A whole food, plant-based dietary pattern is so powerful specifically because its emphasis is naturally on foods that retain their vital original architecture. When you eat foods as close as possible to how they grew in nature, you are getting the full, unabridged benefit of the matrix. Now, quick caveat here. Not all processing is bad. Cooking, freezing, or canning can actually preserve or even enhance certain nutrients, making them easier for our bodies to use. But when processing deliberately removes fiber, concentrates sugars, or strips away natural structures, we break the matrix. And breaking the matrix drastically alters our blood sugar levels, our feelings of fullness, how we absorb nutrients, and even the health of our gut microbiome. This is exactly why eating whole fruit lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes, while drinking sugary stripped-down fruit juices does not. It is the structure, not just the ingredients, that protects your health. Understanding this really demands a total mindset shift. We need to change the very questions we ask ourselves in the grocery aisle. Instead of picking up a box and asking, okay, how much vitamin C am I eating here? Or how many grams of protein does this have? We need to step back and ask, what whole foods naturally provide vitamin C within an intact food matrix? This simple shift completely frees us from obsessively chasing isolated nutrients and lets us joyfully return to choosing whole, minimally processed foods that our bodies inherently know how to handle. To really visualize how beautiful this is, I love thinking of the food matrix as a grand symphony orchestra taking the stage. Imagine a massive concert hall. The food matrix isn't just a collection of musicians practicing alone in separate, soundproof rooms. It's a beautifully coordinated biological symphony where thousands of nutrients must work in perfect harmony to create the deeply resonant music of human health. In this nutrient orchestra, vitamin C is the violin, fiber is that rich, deep cello, magnesium might be the powerful French horn, and the thousands of polyphenols, they're the complex woodwinds. Every single instrument is incredibly valuable on its own. But let's be real, you would never buy a ticket to a grand symphony just to listen to one single violin play the entire score. When you take a highly isolated supplement, you're essentially asking one musician to play the entire symphony by themselves. Sure, you'll recognize the tune, but it completely misses the depth, the emotion, and the absolute magic of the full orchestra. At the end of the day, everything we've talked about boils down to one profound realization. Nutrition isn't simply a math equation. It's not just chemistry on a whiteboard. It is biology. Whole foods are remarkably complex living packages. They contain thousands of interacting compounds perfectly arranged by nature in a structure that deeply influences how our human bodies respond, heal, and thrive. True health doesn't come from a single miracle nutrient. It comes from the remarkable teamwork of everything nature packaged together. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a little something to chew on, literally, the next time you sit down for a meal. Look at your plate and ask yourself, are you just eating isolated nutrients or are you consuming a biological masterpiece? Keep this matrix in mind because in our future deep dives, we are going to explore exactly how different types of modern food processing actually change this matrix and impact our bodies on a cellular level. Until next time, thank you so much for learning with us and enjoy your next masterpiece.